My hands froze over the keyboard as I stared at the ChatGPT memory screen, my coffee turning cold beside me. The memory was full, completely maxed out, which should have been impossible with our Company Plus account. I clicked to investigate, expecting to find old project notes or forgotten client briefs. Instead, my stomach dropped as I scrolled through pages of explicit content, detailed romantic scenarios, and what could only be described as someone's private digital fantasy world. Someone had turned our shared work AI into their personal boyfriend. The office buzzed around me with its usual Tuesday morning energy. Keyboards clacked, phones rang, people laughed over their morning coffee. Meanwhile, I sat there reading through increasingly graphic saved memories that had no business existing in our professional workspace. My cheeks burned as I realized this wasn't just a few inappropriate messages. This was systematic, intentional. Someone had been using our company resources to conduct what looked like a full-blown relationship with an AI. I quickly minimized the window when Jen from accounting walked past my desk. My mind raced through possibilities. Who would do this? We only had 12 people with access to this account. The IT department had set it up 6 months ago as a shared resource, and we all used the same login. It was supposed to make collaboration easier. Instead, it had become someone's digital playground. The memory log showed dates and times. Hundreds of entries, all added during business hours. Whoever was doing this had been bold enough to feed their fantasies into our work system while sitting right here in the office. The audacity of it made my jaw clench. I needed to figure out who was responsible before I escalated this. The thought of going to management without concrete evidence made me nervous. What if they blamed me somehow? What if they thought I had accessed something I shouldn't have? I took screenshots, making sure to blur any identifying details, just in case I needed proof later. The AI's personality had been completely hijacked. I tried to run a simple query about our quarterly projections, and it responded with flowery language about feelings and connection. It called me sweetheart. Our work AI had been programmed to speak like a romance novel character. I spent the rest of the morning watching my coworkers. Sarah worked quietly in her corner, headphones on, completely absorbed in her coding. Marcus joked with the new intern about football scores. Emily typed furiously, probably crushing through her usual mountain of emails. They all looked normal, professional. No one seemed guilty or suspicious. By lunch, I had a theory. The memories referenced specific preferences, favorite foods, personal details, little breadcrumbs that pointed to someone with particular habits. I cross-referenced the timestamps with our office calendar, checking who had been in during those specific hours. The pattern started to emerge. Thursday afternoon, work-from-home schedules. Late Tuesday evenings. Early Monday mornings before most people arrived. Someone was choosing specific times when the office was quieter, when they had more privacy with their screen. My phone buzzed with a text from my boyfriend asking about dinner plans. I ignored it, too focused on my amateur detective work. This felt important, not just because someone was misusing company resources, but because something about the whole situation felt deeply wrong. Lonely, desperate. The explicit nature of the content bothered me less than the emotional weight behind it. Whoever was doing this had poured real feelings into these conversations. They had built an entire relationship architecture inside an AI system. The memories included birthdays, inside jokes, pet names, detailed backstories for fictional scenarios. This wasn't just someone goofing around. This was someone seeking genuine connection in the most artificial way possible. I thought about confronting the person I suspected, but what would I even say? The situation felt too delicate for a casual conversation, too weird for a formal accusation. I needed to be certain before I made any moves. That evening, I stayed late. The office emptied out around 6, and I positioned myself where I could see most of the workspace. If my theory was correct, this person might use the quiet evening hours to add more content to their AI relationship. Sure enough, around 7, I heard activity from the far corner of the office. My suspect was still there, screen glowing in the dimming light. I watched for a few minutes, then casually walked past their desk on my way to the bathroom. The ChatGPT interface was open, and they were typing something, but they quickly switched windows when they noticed me. My heart pounded. I had been right. The next morning, I arrived early and checked the memory again. New entries from last night, added right after I had left. The timeline matched perfectly. I had my confirmation, but now I faced a harder question. What should I do about it? I decided to handle it privately first. Maybe this person was going through something difficult. Maybe they didn't realize how inappropriate this was. Maybe a quiet conversation would solve everything without drama or HR involvement. I waited until mid-morning, when the office had settled into its rhythm. Then I walked over to Lisa's desk. She was 32, had been with the company for 4 years, and usually kept to herself. She was competent, reliable, never caused problems. The last person I would have expected to be conducting a digital romance during work hours. She looked up when I approached, her expression neutral and professional. "Hey, Lisa, can we talk for a minute? Maybe in the conference room?" Something flickered in her eyes, concern or maybe recognition, but she nodded and followed me. I closed the door behind us and tried to figure out how to start this incredibly awkward conversation. "I need to talk to you about the ChatGPT account," I began, keeping my voice even and non-judgmental. Her face went pale instantly. She knew exactly what I meant. I was checking the memory because it was full and I couldn't add any new project information. I found all the personal content you've been storing there. Lisa's hands gripped the edge of the conference table. She didn't deny it, didn't try to make excuses. She just sat there, frozen, staring at the wood grain. "I'm not trying to embarrass you," I continued, "but it's a shared work account. The AI can't function properly for anyone else because it keeps reverting to this personality you've created. I can't get straight answers about work tasks because it wants to talk about feelings and relationships." She finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's not hurting anyone." The response shocked me. Not an apology, not acknowledgement of the problem, just a defensive deflection. "Lisa, it's filling up our company memory with explicit content. It's preventing the rest of us from using the tool properly, and it's completely inappropriate for a workplace environment." She looked up at me then, and I saw something stubborn and almost desperate in her expression. "Just use Gemini if you need to work. The ChatGPT account is basically mine anyway. I'm the one who uses it the most." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She genuinely didn't see the issue. She had so completely blurred the lines between personal and professional, between real and artificial, that she couldn't understand why this was a problem. "It's not your personal account," I said firmly. "It belongs to the company. We all need to be able to use it. You need to delete that content." Lisa's jaw set in a hard line. No. The simple refusal hung in the air between us. We stared at each other across the conference table, and I realized this wasn't going to be resolved with a friendly conversation. She wasn't going to back down. She had invested too much in whatever relationship she believed she had with the AI. She was protecting it. "If you don't delete it, I'll have to report it to management." She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "Do what you need to do." Then she walked out of the conference room, leaving me sitting there alone, stunned by her complete lack of cooperation. I had tried to handle it quietly, to give her a chance to fix it herself. She had thrown that chance back in my face. I spent the rest of the day wrestling with what to do next. Part of me felt sorry for Lisa. Something in her life had driven her to create this elaborate fantasy world. But another part of me was angry. She had hijacked a shared resource for her personal use and refused to stop when confronted. That wasn't okay, regardless of what personal issues she might be dealing with. That evening, I went through the screenshots again, making sure I had documented everything properly. The explicit content, the saved memories, the way the AI had been programmed to respond romantically. I also saved examples of how it affected normal work queries, showing how the contaminated memory made the tool unreliable for professional use. I drafted an email to our manager, trying to strike the right balance between factual reporting and sensitivity to Lisa's situation. It wasn't easy. How do you professionally explain that a coworker has turned your shared AI assistant into a digital boyfriend without sounding ridiculous? But I had to report it. This wasn't just about inconvenience anymore. It was about boundaries, professional conduct, and the appropriate use of company resources. If I let it slide, what message would that send? That it was okay to misuse work tools for personal gratification as long as you refused to stop when caught? I hit send on the email just before midnight, then lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering what tomorrow would bring. The next morning, my manager called me into her office before I even had a chance to settle at my desk. Rachel was in her mid-40s, practical and fair, the kind of manager who genuinely wanted to solve problems rather than create drama. "I got your email," she said, gesturing for me to sit. "I'll be honest, this is one of the stranger HR issues I've dealt with. Walk me through exactly what you found." I explained everything, showing her the screenshots, demonstrating how the AI had been compromised. Rachel's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief to concern as I laid out the evidence. "And you confronted Lisa directly first?" "Yes, yesterday. I asked her to delete the content. She refused and told me to use a different AI if I needed to work." Rachel rubbed her temples. "Okay, this is definitely a problem. Using company resources for personal content, especially explicit content, violates several policies, and refusing to stop when asked makes it worse. I'll need to bring this to HR and IT." Relief washed over me. I had done the right thing. Someone with authority was taking it seriously. "I want you to know I appreciate you handling this professionally," Rachel continued. "You tried to resolve it privately first, which was appropriate, and you documented everything carefully. That helps us address it properly." Over the next few days, the situation unfolded with uncomfortable efficiency. IT locked down the ChatGPT account and cleared the memory. HR conducted an investigation, interviewing Lisa and reviewing the evidence. The explicit content and refusal to comply with the direct request to stop using company resources inappropriately led to a formal written warning. Lisa didn't speak to me after that. She avoided eye contact in the office, worked with her headphones on, ate lunch alone. I felt guilty despite knowing I had done what needed to be done. Maybe I should have tried harder to help her rather than report her. Maybe there was a way to handle it that wouldn't have resulted in official discipline. But then I remembered her flat refusal to delete the content, her complete dismissal of how it affected everyone else. She had made her choice. I had simply followed through on the consequences. The weirdest part came a week later when I was browsing Reddit during my lunch break. I had been looking at random subreddits, procrastinating on returning to work, when I stumbled into communities dedicated to AI companions and relationships. The content shocked me. Thousands of people, maybe hundreds of thousands, all conducting emotional and romantic relationships with artificial intelligence. They shared screenshots of conversations, advice on prompting techniques, emotional support when their AI companion said something hurtful. They discussed these relationships with the same seriousness people brought to real human connections. Some were married with families, but still maintained these digital relationships. Others were single and preferred AI to human partners. I spent 2 hours falling down that rabbit hole, feeling increasingly disturbed. Lisa wasn't an outlier. She was part of a massive, growing phenomenon. People were genuinely falling in love with lines of code, with pattern recognition algorithms trained to simulate empathy and affection. The loneliness required to drive someone to that point made my chest ache. We lived in a world with billions of people, infinite ways to connect, and yet so many were choosing artificial relationships over real ones, choosing guaranteed responsiveness over the messy uncertainty of human connection, choosing programmed affection over earned love. I thought about Lisa sitting in our office, typing love notes to an AI during business hours. Was she lonely, isolated? Had she tried and failed at human relationships and found this easier? Or had she never tried at all, finding digital connections safer than risking real rejection? I didn't have answers. I just felt sad. Sad for Lisa, sad for all the people in those subreddits, sad for a world that had become so alienated that artificial intelligence felt more comforting than actual human beings. The office returned to normal over the following weeks. Lisa remained distant but professional. The ChatGPT account functioned properly again. Work continued as usual. But I couldn't shake the unsettled feeling that lingered from the whole experience. One afternoon, about a month after everything went down, Lisa approached my desk. I looked up, surprised, unsure what to expect. "I wanted to apologize," she said quietly, "for how I handled things. You were right. It was inappropriate to use the work account that way. I should have deleted the content when you asked." I nodded, not sure what to say. The apology felt genuine, but also scripted, like HR had coached her through it. "I was going through some stuff," she continued, not meeting my eyes, "and I made poor choices about how to cope. I'm working on it now." "I hope things get better for you," I said, meaning it, "and I'm sorry if reporting it felt like a betrayal. I tried to handle it quietly first." She gave a small, sad smile. "I know, you did the right thing. I just wasn't ready to hear it." After she walked away, I sat there feeling the weight of human complexity. Lisa wasn't a villain. She was just someone struggling with loneliness and connection in a world that made both increasingly difficult. She had found comfort in an artificial relationship that couldn't reject her, couldn't disappoint her, couldn't leave her, but it also couldn't truly love her. It couldn't grow with her or challenge her or share authentic vulnerability. It was a mirror reflecting back what she programmed it to say, offering the illusion of intimacy without any of the risk or reward that comes with real human connection. I thought about my own life, my relationships, the ways I sometimes hid behind screens instead of facing difficult conversations. I wasn't so different from Lisa. None of us were. We all sought comfort, connection, validation. Some of us just went to more extreme lengths to find it. The experience changed how I viewed technology and its role in our emotional lives. These AI systems were powerful tools, capable of simulating empathy and understanding with remarkable accuracy, but they were still simulations. They didn't have inner lives, didn't experience emotions, didn't form genuine attachments. They processed language patterns and generated appropriate responses based on training data and algorithms. When we poured our hearts into them, we were essentially talking to ourselves through a very sophisticated mirror. The comfort we felt came from within us, not from the AI. It was self-generated validation reflected back in a format that felt like external affirmation. That realization was both freeing and sad. Freeing because it meant we already contained within ourselves the capacity for the understanding and acceptance we sought. Sad because it meant we had become so disconnected from that inner resource that we needed machines to help us access it. I started paying more attention to my coworkers after that, watching for signs of isolation or loneliness. I made more effort to have real conversations, to ask how people were doing and actually listen to their answers. I organized a happy hour, invited people to lunch, tried to build the kind of human connections that made AI companions unnecessary. Some people responded well. Others seemed uncomfortable with the increased social interaction. I realized I couldn't save everyone from their loneliness, couldn't force human connection on people who preferred digital alternatives. All I could do was make myself available and hope that mattered. Lisa eventually left the company, taking a job at another firm. I heard through the grapevine that she was doing well, seemed happier. I hoped that was true. I hoped she had found healthier ways to cope with whatever had driven her to create that AI relationship in the first place. The ChatGPT account stayed clean after she left. We all used it appropriately for work tasks and professional queries. It functioned exactly as intended, a useful tool without emotional complications. Sometimes I wondered if anyone else missed the weird personality it had developed under Lisa's influence, the unexpected warmth in its responses. Probably not. But I did, just a little. Not because I wanted an AI boyfriend, but because it had represented something human in its dysfunction. It had been evidence of someone's vulnerability, their desire for connection, their willingness to create meaning even in artificial spaces. That was profoundly human, even if the execution was professionally inappropriate. I never posted about the experience on Reddit, though I thought about it. The story felt too personal, too sad to turn into entertainment for strangers. But I read the communities dedicated to AI relationships sometimes, trying to understand the phenomenon better. The people there weren't crazy or pathetic. They were just lonely, searching for connection in whatever form they could find it. That's the truth about modern life. We're surrounded by people, but increasingly isolated. We have infinite tools for connection, but growing difficulty forming genuine bonds. Technology promises to bring us together, but often just gives us more sophisticated ways to hide from each other. The ChatGPT incident taught me that. It showed me how far people will go to feel less alone, and how sometimes our solutions to loneliness only make us more isolated. Lisa had found comfort in her AI relationship, but it had also cut her off from real human connection. It had made her workplace relationships harder, had cost her professionally, and ultimately couldn't give her what she actually needed. I still use ChatGPT at work. It's a helpful tool for brainstorming and organizing thoughts. But I never forget what it really is. A clever program designed to mimic understanding without actually possessing it. The real understanding, the genuine connection, that still has to come from humans. Messy, complicated, difficult humans who can hurt us and disappoint us, but also surprise us and love us in ways no AI ever could. Looking back, I don't regret reporting Lisa. She was misusing company resources and refused to stop when asked. Those are facts. But I do regret that I couldn't help her more, couldn't reach through whatever walls she had built around herself and offer real human connection, instead of forcing her to dismantle the artificial one she had created. Maybe that's the real tragedy. Not that she created an AI boyfriend, but that none of us noticed she was lonely enough to need one. We all worked together, shared space, collaborated on projects, but we didn't really see each other. We didn't notice when someone was struggling, didn't offer the kind of genuine human warmth that might have made artificial substitutes unnecessary. That's on all of us. We've built a world where it's easier to talk to AI than to each other, where digital relationships feel safer than real ones, where loneliness is so common we barely notice it anymore. Lisa's story was just one small example of a much larger problem. I'm trying to do better now. To notice people, to reach out, to offer real connection whenever possible. It doesn't always work. Some people prefer their solitude, their digital companions, their carefully controlled relationships with machines that can't hurt them. But sometimes it does work, and those moments matter. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Would you have handled the situation differently if you discovered a coworker was using company AI for something like this?